Hello, 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 and welcome back to another map building stream. It has been a hot second since we've been here in Incarnate. Just getting rid of that awful echo. I apologise. Either way, welcome back to a map building stream. It's been a hot second. Hello, Steve. How are you? It's great to have you here. Let me know if the music's too loud because I only have the volume that's coming through my headset, so if it is too loud, let me know. If it needs to go up, also let me know. If you like what I do and you want to see these maps being built, or you actually want to see them in action, you can do so by streaming into Ignition Point, because this is where these are going to be used. Turn that down just a touch, because I just realised that was very loud. But now I don't know if it's too quiet, so we'll have to wait and see, I guess. Nah, music's fine. Always helpful. Turn it back up then. So, yes, if you want to see these maps, you can do so in Ignition Point, which is on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. It is coming back on the 29th of January. So I am taking this Christmas break to get some rest, recuperation, and also get some hardcore prep work done, I suppose. In essence of not knowing where the guys are going to go on any given day. So that's always fun. You can catch up on all my streams over on my YouTube channel of the same name, Boomeadow. You can leave comments over there and whatnot. And if you like the stream, please hit the follow button if you are not already following. Or if you are feeling generous or are financially able to do so, please hit the subscribe button. It would be wonderful to have you as part of the little spooky community. Otherwise, jumping in, we are building Scorchwood. Now, a lot of these towns and cities I do already have maps for, but I got them on the ye old Pinterest. And because I'm now streaming my settings, I obviously don't necessarily know where all of the maps have come from. And obviously I don't want to take credit for other people's work. So I am indeed recreating them, rebuilding them in the way that suits me and benefits me. So Scorchwood itself is in the fire realm. We are set I will figure this out in a minute. The current setting is in the first era of Azuria. So those who are familiar with my stream through either State of Anarchy or the new Equinox, that setting actually takes place 60,000 years after Ignition Point, and it has been through the world has been through several cataclysms by that point. So this is the original world as set out by the elemental dragons, which is why it's called the Fire Realm. The Fire Realm was created by the fire dragon Sinan. So so basically I'm just recreating it, rebuilding it in a way that works for me, and we just go from there basically. But it also is an opportunity for... Oh, we love buffering music. That's great. Please do. Good times. There we go. The music that I am also playing at the moment is thanks to the no copyright sounds. No NCS Arcade, as you can see in the little bottom here. Why are we having such internet issues? It's just YouTube. Oh, that seemed to help it. Just asking too much for the buffering, basically. So how are you this fine evening, Steve, if you're listening in? What are you up to? Oh, that seems to have... Hello, Talmaru. How are you? You've come to pilfer the secrets. Come to pilfer my map making secrets. Well, you are very welcome to ask, and I will endeavour to do my best. I am in no means the best incarnate user. I kind of just do what works for me. I do occasionally bring in either my own assets. I have also been known to draw my own assets when I've gotten annoyed with some of the offerings. Just because there are sometimes very specific things that I want, and obviously Incarnate doesn't necessarily provide everything I need, especially if I'm building the maps for Equinox especially. Yeah, I am absolutely dandy tonight. I've just come home from having dinner, celebrating some successful report cards. So, very happy with the outcomes of how school has done this year. So, decided to go celebrate. Spent some time in Time Zone, which is I don't know if you've got it where you are, Steve, but essentially a gaming arcade for a little while. Got some dessert. It was great. Fine, and you've been fine, and you've been dandy, but you've never been fine. Well, that is a pity, because fine and dandy is an exceptional way to be. I did do something wild last night, obviously with the permission of the author. I actually did a really impromptu, just half-hour stream as I recorded chapter 12 of the current book that I'm working on. I will let them know Budger's proud. Thanks, Steve. So I did an impromptu stream last night, and I did that I did that wild thing, Steve, that you seem to do, which is not save the VOD, because obviously that was one of the things that I promised the author. I'm currently narrating book 3 in the Perception series by David Parker Ross. It is a sci-fi fantasy novel set in space. Book 3 is called Walking in Her Shadow, the Psychosis edition. And it is following, this particular book is following the American Marine Emma Dodgson and the series of events. Yeah. See, I have saved the VOD. I did promise David that I wouldn't have it up for very long, and for obvious reasons. Obviously, I'm recording the book as an audiobook, and well, one, it's an unfinished copy, but two, it was just as a just getting the word out there of what I do. Getting the book out there as well, and just seeing if you guys are actually somewhat interested in, getting to see the behind the scenes of me trying to record an audiobook for somebody. So I decided to do that, but I can't usually start that kind of recording until much later in the evening, so that was only about, I think it was 11 o'clock I started that, just because I live under a flight path. And the planes near me don't stop until about 10:30 at night, so trying to record before then just is not going to happen. So I decided I would jump on, do something I haven't done in a long time, and that is continue to map build. So, for anyone who doesn't know, I like to use Incarnate for my world maps. World map, not just my world maps, my town maps, city maps. I take great pride in the fact that I build all my own maps. Yeah, I really enjoy the fact that I can build all my own maps and get to share them with people. For those who do play in my games know that I do get a little stressed about whether they actually like them and things like that. Because it's important to me, obviously, that they enjoy what I'm creating for them. I do allow people to have a say as well in naming businesses and things, although some of my players, the more devious ones, do at times make me regret it. Because it turns out they are jokesters and sometimes cannot be trusted with the weighty power of naming things in a world. Purely because, I mean, they do have a great joy. Me stressed. I mean, the Ucker game, Steve, at the start did create... I mean, anyone who has watched the video of the Ucker game, I think for the first half hour can see just the will to live slowly leaving me. Because I honestly did not think it was going to be that hard to get you guys to engage, like, join the adventure to begin with. Like, I think she threw the snow globe to create the portal, and then I think you turned around and said, "Oh, I cleaned that up." And then I think we spent 5 minutes of debating, "Oh, well, you cleaned that up, so it's one person cleaning and 5 person acting as supervisors." And it wasn't too bad. There are certain times, and I have to preface this saying I adore the Ignition Point crew. They are very out of the box thinkers, and I really, really enjoy how they actually manage to motivate themselves to follow the adventure. Like, I don't think I've ever really felt a time when I don't think I ever have felt like there's ever really a time that I didn't know what they wanted to achieve, which is great. But just in certain times, they are just... they're like Monday night, because it was our Christmas special and not the usual campaign. So we were following the Uckers, which, for anyone who don't know, the Uckers are the small clockwork automatons that one of the characters, Budge, has... Well, that's exactly it. I do not blame you. I don't blame you, Steve. But yeah, so the Uckers are small clockwork automatons that are, for lack of a better word, the adopted children of our large clockwork automaton, Budge. Now, the clockwork automatons are a reskinned version of the Warforged, that have a bit of my own world lore in how they were created and things like that. So I do also have some custom settings just in regards to making sure that they get sleep. They also have to consume food and liquid of some description, just so no one feels like... Yeah, just so no one feels like they have to... Yeah. Budge himself is a unique clockwork automaton. Budge stands for Bioorganic Utility Automaton with Destructive Galactic Engine. He was created by an artificer, and houses the soul of a juvenile elder god. And that's what powers him. Whereas the Uckers were created by the spark in Mechanis, like a lot of the Modron and things like that. So there are different origins for clockwork automatons in my world, depending, and things like this. And so, yeah, Budge has adopted these little Uckers, who are essentially cleaning robots in town. They're only about 2.5, 3 feet tall. And he's collected about 20 of them. And so we decided that for our Christmas special this year, we were going to do the Uckers in the ultimate Christmas special, Ucker Hard. And I designed the adventure that they were going to be collected from the tavern by Holly, a elf who works in the Winterfest warehouse workshop, with Father Niklaus Sinterkrinkel, basically, Santa Claus essentially, for Winterfest. And they were celebrating before Winterfest occurred. And I went, yep, this is going to be fine. Holly's going to show up, turn around and say, oh, we're having a party. Would you like to come? They're going to say, okay, and we're going to go and get the adventure started. That is not what happened. I think, I love them, but I think my exasperation was evident in that first half hour of just, no, you can't be terrorists. No, you can't blow anything up. Why are you trying to fight something? Why are there explosives? Yeah, see, I love that. Perfect. Yeah, I've also done one that's been inspired. I think I've done a session before we did a stream. We turned it into a stream. One of my parties, they had a Home Alone style setting. And yeah, it's so much fun getting to do those kind of things. And I'm like, this is going to be great. And essentially, the exact plot was loosely Die Hard. And I went, perfect. This is going to be fine. They all of them have seen it. They all know what it's like. Some may or may not believe that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, which that in it itself caused a level of controversy I was not anticipating. But yeah, just the essence of trying to get them to the adventure. I'm like, just go through the portal. Like, why are you trying to fight everything? But at the end of the day, I think they all really enjoyed it. And in essence, that's what it comes down to. That's all that matters, is that they enjoyed themselves. Yeah, it sounds fantastic, Talmari. I'm trying to figure out what to do with this wall, because I don't... Do I want to move? You know what? Bugger it. Move this wall slightly. Out a little bit. I don't mind the manual placing because I'm just that pedantic. One thing I do absolutely love that they have done is that the shading here, they have made it so that you can actually shade over the top of objects. So this shadow disappearing into, like, down into the ground kind of thing, and allowing me to create this path up here, that has made me so happy in a way that I cannot describe. Yeah, see, I'd love that. But I'm a simple girl. This is why I like Incarnate. The only times that I think I get really frustrated with it is legitimately just It is a fantasy map builder, and so, for example, Equinox, which is set 60,000 years in the future from when this map, 60,000 years in the future of this map, is very futuristic. There are neon lights, skyscrapers, things like that. And Incarnate doesn't necessarily have all of those assets. Now, I can recolor a lot of the assets that I've got here to things that I need and whatnot so that they all kind of match. Yeah, sci-fi mapping. I have been really fortunate that the desert stuff, so the pack that this comes from within Incarnate, if I come over here, because I use all assets, but so this desert set here, these are the buildings here, because you can recolor the assets manually, and once you change the color, it'll stay, like the sets will stay in that color and keep a record over here. I change them to grey and I just turn them into skyscrapers and like a futuristic city, and then I go into Procreate, because that's what I've got, and I put in all of the neon lights and things like this, which is just drawing the lines over where all the buildings are and everything. So yes, there is a lot of hand placement going on, but it's worth it at the end when my maps look the way that I want them to. For State of Anarchy, when I was running that, because that was set in the Feywild, there were a number of buildings that I hand created. If I come up here to my catalog, nope, it'll be under Universal. Turn off this search filter. So these are all of my own little custom ones. Now, these are my hand drawn ones that I have put in. So these are all my little hand-drawn buildings that I wanted, little boats and things like this. A skyscraper. This is a festival stage. These ones here, though, all of these train things to make sure I've got futuristic trains and stuff like this, I actually have a ridiculous amount of Roll20 assets. And you can download the token packs. And so... for example, one of the battle maps I did for State of Anarchy had, for example, Candyland room in this particular layer. And so I used that and those assets those candy assets from Roll20 to build that asset. So, and obviously, if anyone is ever interested in those assets, I will usually link them in my description, especially on YouTube and things like this. So, because, yeah, I think it's really important to... one thing I have realized in doing it, though, is sometimes I will support map creators on Patreon. Obviously, double checking that I can use their maps on stream and things like this, even if it is with like credit and things like that. And so I have discovered that I get a bit picky with it, though. So for example, I don't see the point in sponsoring someone on Patreon who is, for example, selling Incarnate designed maps on the pure basis that I'm like, well, why would I do that if I can make that myself? And I understand that that's not necessarily the point of it. Like, obviously, that's obviously not the point of it, but I'm like, well, why would I pay for something that I myself can do? So, now. This is going to be interesting and problematic. because this is over the top. Yeah, see, most of the time, and Steve can probably attest to this, that I do still give them all of their information. Obviously, behind the scenes, hello, Drop Bear. It's wonderful to have you here. I do usually give all of the information behind the scenes. I do have NPC handouts that have pictures for the players, which obviously that can be a little time consuming, having to go through and individually click all of the permissions to allow them to see those characters. But I still describe the character. I certainly try. That's all I can say is I certainly try to be. Yeah, just because I think it's really important to still explain for people behind the scenes. But because I do stream my games, I do like making the effort to... Yeah, I do like making the effort to... blend mode. This is the problem. Now, this is where I see, because that's there. I have completely forgotten. Yeah, the pretty map does help. It lets people know where we are. It just keeps something moving around on the screen as well. See, none of these are going to work for what I want them to do. So this is normal. The question is... Here's something I need to check. Well, that's exactly it. And I do have... Yeah, and that's exactly it. I need to do a world map for my campaign setting. See, I do mine a little bit different, and this is where I probably do too much, and it depends on who you're asking. I do have a huge tendency to just want to create my world. And so what I do is I endeavor to make the effort to make sure all my towns are built out, have a vague idea what my overarching plot is, because obviously that's important, and then I kind of just let them decide where they're going to go. I will kind of make the plot relatively amorphous about where things can be, or I change up where things can occur so that if I need to drop them some information or whatnot, because I want the players to feel like they're the ones who are telling the story, and I'm there to essentially, while yes, creating the story for them, just being more of the reactive world to their decisions. Because I have tried in the past, and this is obviously just for me and my particular parties. Obviously, everybody is going to be different on this, but I discovered really, really quickly that if I try to get them to go a specific way, they ended up getting, more often than not, they would get really frustrated because they would feel like, oh, well, no matter what we do, you're going to railroad us. And I'm like, okay, well, fine. I will stop designing enough of a story that you don't feel like you have a say in what's happening. Because obviously, first and foremost, I want them to feel like it's their story. And I've had almost the opposite kind of happen now, insofar as I have had it happen in the past that because my world is so vast, and now that so this particular world setting has been in creation. Yeah, and that's exactly it. However, I've had players accuse me of saying that there's too much and they don't know what to do. But my biggest pet peeve, I think I've discovered over the last 7 or 8 years now of being a DM, is I hate feeling like I'm just telling them a story and I have to drag them through the story. It gets really frustrating to me if I end up feeling like that I'm just throwing story at them and they're not doing anything with it. They just want to be told a story. They want to be told what to do next. They want to be handheld, but then when things don't go the way that they want them to, or like I've had some players turn around and go, well, how come you didn't check if that's what we really wanted to do first? Like in a combat, oh, how come you didn't ask if we were sure? And I'm like, because the point of the game is to try the thing. And yeah, it's really gratifying when you have players engage with the story. And I'm always, especially now in the last few years, I've become a lot better at describing my story in session 0. Oh, yeah. And that's exactly it. I absolutely adore that when that happens. But I've also had combats where they're like, this enemy was too powerful. How are we supposed to know? And I'm like, I don't know. All of the 5 months worth of, and all this, 5 months of lore and all this foreshadowing that happened, like literally telling you this guy was stupid powerful and you still did it anyway. So yeah, it's really satisfying to me when my players actively engage with it of their own volition. Yeah, 100% agree with you. I don't want to. Ooh. That's helpful. I didn't think I would be able to do that. That's a win. There you go. I just learned something new. Go me. Which will allow me to... Because I'm not... This gate down here took me far longer than I would like it to have. So I'm going to straight up copy that and paste it over here too. However, first things first, put in the additional wall. See, yeah, I love it when they dig it up. I do have some interesting thoughts. I also get a lot of joy out of seeing how a new party... Well, that's exactly it. I will say though, um, here's a little insight into Equinox if people don't or haven't already figured this out by knowing my style. So Equinox up until this point has been very, very improv. And a couple of my players are like, oh, I can tell. And I'm like, I don't know if that's an insult or not, but they're still enjoying themselves, so that's the main thing. Because normally, yeah, I put a lot more work into it. It's just I haven't had the time up until recently. And so I'm just like, I'm going to create stuff. If you guys want to engage with it, please do so. But yeah, I think we finished up Ignition Point for the year on Monday. And I turned around and said, okay, well, over the next few months, just have some thoughts about where you would like to start up the sessions next year. Obviously, we're going to have a couple weeks time skip in game. Exactly. The key point is, I have 2 key points. One, it is a game. First and foremost, it's a game. It will never take precedence over real life. And in saying that, I say that as a very firm rule that this is the way that I'm going to run my games, i.e. your in-character feelings will never trump out-of-world feelings. So real life feelings, real life concerns, we all have, like, particularly my players and I, we all have families, we all have jobs, we all have other things to do in the world, the real world outside of the game. And we come to the game to escape, have fun, things like that. And the minute that whatever is happening in game is affecting our real life, that stops it from being a game. That stops it from being fun. Best reason for missing a game. I don't know how controversial this opinion is. This is just the way that I do it. I frequently tell my players they do not owe me an explanation as to why they can't make a session, because that is up to them if they want to share it with me or not. Obviously, because for a lot of my players, we have met for the first time on the internet, so I don't know them. I don't know their life. I don't know their struggles. I don't expect them to tell me. The only thing I ask, I said, I don't care if it's like a minute before the start of game. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to be a little bit frustrated, but even if it's a minute before game, just let me know you're not going to make it. Yep. Yeah, they can let me know if they want to. I will never pry, because that is obviously none of my business into their private lives. And I'm a big believer in that, even if they're going to miss it, even if they've just, like, for example, they've had a really stressful day at work or whatever, or something has cropped up, or they're just not feeling it, they're not in the right headspace. I've turned around to players and said, if you don't want to make it tonight, that's absolutely fine. Just let me know that you're not going to be there. The only thing I ask is just let me know you're not going to be there so I can make accommodations for that. I taking a mental health day, even from D&D, is perfectly acceptable to me. Because this is supposed to be something that we do for fun. And if you are stressing about whether it's going to be fun or not, or you're stressing that you're going to let people down or whatever, and you just need to have the day off, take it. I don't mind. Just let me know that you're not going to be there. That's all I ask. And in saying that, I've had a number of players recently. So, for example, in Equinox, I've had a player who missed the first few sessions because they've had life commitments on. Okay, cool. And they've also informed me that, I might, because originally they were debating whether they would be able to continue in the game or not. And I said, hey, we can make it work. We can work with whatever commitment you're able to make, because at the end of the day, it's a game. It's supposed to be fun. Yeah, exactly. Even as a DM, if you're not feeling it, I have felt guilty before about cancelling games on people because I've had to make work a priority. I've just not felt well either. And, basically don't force yourself to do something that is going to add to your stress level. Like, at the end of the day, like I said, this is supposed to be a game. It's supposed to be fun. The minute it stops being that, it's not good for you. Stress is never good in any way, shape, or form for you. You know, and I want my players to come to the table and enjoy themselves, not, you know, not feel like it's just another stress that's adding to their life because they feel like they're letting people down. And that's exactly it. It's, you will never let me down as a player for having to take time off because you are just not in the right headspace. You look after you first. And I will say that from a point of, that is also something I myself have had to learn over the last few years. Learning to have that kind of grace for my players too. Because, yeah, I have been in the position where I haven't always been the best DM that I could have been. I haven't been as understanding as I should have been. You know, and, you know, I've made mistakes. And the only thing I can say is to that is recognizing when you've made those mistakes and learning from them and growing as a person and giving my players and myself that grace of, you know, growing as a DM and a player and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's just my opinion. I was really wondering how I was going to do these right angles, to be honest. And I went, did I decide? Yes, I did decide on these peaks. I wasn't going to do circles. I was going to do squares. These ones. Yeah, it does. I think, actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I think that was part of the reason that Percy from Vox Machina ended up with white hair. Because I know that came up as a point of discussion for some of the reaction channels who haven't watched the Critical Role series. And so they weren't aware of, obviously, Percy's backstory or anything like that. And so learning that his hair had been darker and actually turned white due to the events of, yeah. And I'm like, yep. And I love little things like that. And yeah, it will literally turn your hair white. And not only that, stress can also be a major contributor to a lot of other illnesses as well, secondary illnesses. I myself suffer from orthostatic intolerance, which means that my blood pressure will just tank out of nowhere if I stand or sit for too long and things like this. But something that can actually affect that as well is intense stress and emotional situations, and it can lead to chronic fatigue and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, stress is terrible on the body, and there is only so... Well, that's exactly it. Stress is a terrible thing on the body, and it will... Your body... Positional narcolepsy, kind of. If you've ever seen, like, little old ladies... It's not just predominant. It's not just in little old ladies, but if you've ever seen little old ladies at the shops or whatever, and they just kind of like on a hot day and they kind of just topple over and faint, that's kind of what it is. It's it's a just your blood pressure just dropping out of nowhere. It's not a consistent low blood pressure. And yeah, so. And it's been a long process in figuring that out as well. Like, it is a major contributor to my chronic fatigue as well. And yeah, stress increases that. And I can easily say that there was a time as well that even as a DM, yeah, I'm the arbiter of the world and everything like this. But I was in a position where running D&D became exceptionally stressful for me. Not because the actual stress of planning and things like this, but I went through a phase. Yeah, exactly. And you find out that stuff and you're like, man, I gotta look after myself. But yeah, I went through a stage where I just had, through both my own fault and also just incompatibility of players, learning lessons that, I mean, it should be really obvious to some people and things like that, that not every table... Yeah, B12 is really important for not being tired. Yeah, learning that not every table is going to be compatible with every player. Not every player is going to be looking for the same thing, and the type of games I run are not necessarily, and this is what I mean by, like, I've learned to express what my games consist of now a lot better than I used to, and things like this. And yeah, doing session zeros and getting better at session zeros has been like an absolute lifesaver in my opinion as well. 120 1200 word session zero contract. I feel like my players, anyone who has sat through one of my session zeros, would probably say that they would probably prefer the 1200 word cliff note. But yeah, learning to put my own boundaries in and stand up for myself, stand up for my world. Yeah, it's 1200 words. It really isn't a lot, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, I know that there are players out there who think I am the spawn of Satan as a DM. And to give them a little grace, I would probably say that some of it at the time had been true. I definitely could have handled some things better. And then there's also the ones who have completely mischaracterized me and things like that. And it is what it is. But I've also realized that I should have dealt with those things better. See, that's clever to make sure that they've read it. Hey, Steve, would have you preferred that? The 1200 word session zero contract? I feel like after the Equinox session zero, about a 50% success rate. Yeah. I've started to realize that, so I am one of those people that I do have an interview process for new players coming into my game. And usually that interview, as I'm aware, it's probably very terrifying to ask someone of this, but it's just kind of a group chat with the players who are already in the game. Just have a chat, get along. It's not really an interview per se. It's just a compatibility thing. But that being said, I do still ask the questions of, like, what's your ideal style of play? Tell me about a moment that you find really interesting that, happened to one of your characters. And even then, I've had people interview really, really well, and then we've gotten into play and they were not at all. The way they played was not at all the way they interviewed. And I'm not going to lie, I felt lied to. But I persevered. And, eventually they felt the game wasn't for them and they left. So, yeah, I think compatibility more than anything is important. Like, I think for the most part, the way that most of my players play, most of the way that my players tend to play is along the lines of they take the story and the content seriously, but they don't necessarily take themselves too seriously. So I do know that a lot of my players do have a tendency to deal with stress and traumatic things with humor. And so for anyone who has seen Ignition Point, spoilers for anyone who has not and was interested in it. So we've recently had a character death. And while everyone was really sad about the character death in character and things like this, you know, they were still cracking jokes. You know, like the, you know, ooh, too soon kind of thing. But at the same time, they were legitimately like in character and out of character upset, which is why it actually bizarrely ended up at right the perfect time, because it was right before we were about to take our Christmas break. And so we did have one player suggest that, hey, maybe this would be a good spot for the Christmas break, just because it will give the characters a couple of weeks in character to have some downtime. So when we come back next session, you know, the first session of the year, some time will have passed and they will have been able to move on. And Steve, you still haven't emotionally. Oh, I feel so bad because, yeah. And this was one of those situations where we were right in the middle of this particular character's like arc as well, which means that story died in the water completely. However, the other players have actually debated amongst themselves as to whether they actually fulfill this particular character's arc for them, as a sign of respect for him, his journey, for the journey of his people. And I'm really interested. We have discussed it, and you know, it was come to the consensus that nothing was going to be decided upon until we're closer to going back, because yeah, everybody having a bit of downtime to just mentally disengage from it all, to be honest. Yeah, mentally disengage from it all. Figure out what they want to do with their characters. I tried using Blender. Uh-oh. Wait, what kind of Blender? I'm assuming Blender we're talking about the, I'm assuming we're talking about the art app? The sculpting app? Well, I know that Blender... yeah, it's a Blender, if I've got this correct, is a 3D sculpting app. For like 3D figures and stuff. Oh dear. That's not good. What were you trying to do? Don't worry, Steve. I'd know if it lost a finger. I would, and you would too. You'd probably hear the screaming from here. Ah, fair enough. Have fun, Steve. Get some rest. It's great having you here anyway. So this particular town, as I said right in the beginning, is in the fire realm, which in my particular world setting, the world itself was created by the draconic gods, the elemental dragons. And those elemental dragons were Sinan, the Fire Master, Sylvanus, the Earthen King, Azili, the Sweetwater, and Shinatsuhiko, the Tempest. They are Earth, Air, Fire, Water, respectively. Their mother and father were... Now I've got to think about this. Ahura, the Day Father, and Shaylun, who is the night Mother. They are obviously day and night respectively, but there's other stuff going on as well. For anyone who has watched Ignition Point, will be able to tell you straight away that is not inherently true. That everything is all good in the draconic world. First of all, the elemental dragons and all of dragonkind do not know that they are dragons, because the god of dragonkind was never able to take their role due to them being removed from the tapestry of fate. Which, of course, terrible, terrible times, if you cannot recognize that. There is also, before the 4 elemental dragons were born, there was also, additionally, twin goddesses born, and I have specific dragon subsects for them as well, but we had... I've got to think about this. I think it's, without looking, I believe it's Ayla, she is, I think it's the Glimmer in the Darkness. And then there is Takasis, or in this particular time frame, I believe she is still Nephthys. Nephthys, and I cannot tell you what her name is. Yeah. Well, it's been a while since I've actually referred to all of the draconic gods, and in the time between creating them and setting it to the stream, I went through and I renamed them all in my own naming format, just because I wanted to have that dissociation from Wizards of the Coast draconic gods. But some people will notice that some of the lore, some of the names, any of the names that are real world referencing to gods and things like this, I may have kept the names, but otherwise I have changed them to my own name format just to have that separation of my world lore from Wizards of the Coast world lore. And so I cannot 100% remember what they're called. However, the twin goddesses, who represent light and darkness, they aren't specifically light and darkness. What they are is referring to is not even morality. It is light represents the mind and logic, and darkness represents the heart and emotion. Yeah, the Rocky Mountains are a thing. Exactly. I put a lot of work into trying to make really cool names for things. And then I immediately regret it. Because then I remember one, have to remember it, and 2, be able to pronounce it. Which is why on some of my stuff, as you'll see specifically in Equinox and things like that, I created my own language as well. I created the language of the language is called Ahikan. It is specifically a language specific to the ancient Chaldeans, of the world, who are related to an Empyrean goddess who is essentially the soul of the world. And so we have different pantheons as well. There, like I said, this is 7 years of world lore. So not only do we have the draconic gods who created the world, we also have the ancient Empyreans. They are like, if we go with Greek mythos, they are the difference between the Titans and the Greek gods. The Empyreans are not technically the dragon gods, they are Linnorm gods. So think Ragnarok, not Ragnarok because that's the event. Now I'm trying to think of the world serpent, Jormungr, that one, and things like that. So Linnorms are referred to as the Empyreans. However, there aren't just the Empyreans. There are also the Eldritch gods, the Eldritch Titans. And they are essentially the Empyrean gods who fell. They decided that they were under the rule of Nibiru, the Titan King. And he, before the creation of the world, he decided he was going to try to challenge Ion, the overgod of the Empyreans, to his rulership. And this led to the Empyrean War and the Titan War. Yeah, I kept running into the wall. Where are the gods in all of this? That has happened in the Equinox world. This is after the events of the merge, and it has caused a separation between the celestial plane and the material plane, the Feywild, and the Hells have all been kind of smushed together into the same plane of existence, but they're kind of like still within their own leaf space, I suppose. So they're like sandwiched over each other. But because of all of this has led to a disconnect from the celestial plane. And so it means that no one has seen the gods in quite a while, and it is leading to chaos and things like this. We also have the primordial deities as well. They're not really deities. I call them the abstractions, and they are the fundamental... 9 is a big number in my world. So they are the 9 fundamental forces of the universe. They just exist. They do not require belief to exist. They just do. And so because of that, the abstractions create avatars anytime. Basically, their power creates an avatar in the world, and they just walk around, and the most powerful force in the entirety of my universe is balance. Above all, balance must be adhered. So there is a chaos abstraction. She has an avatar in the world who is an active goddess for at least 3 eras. Her name is Eris. She is the Chaos Maiden. But as time has gone on, her counterpart in the avatar of order has gone missing. And so the world and the events of the stories that have been written before, because obviously all of the events and circumstances that any of my players have taken prior to all of this and prior to any of the world lore stuff happening, some of the players' actions have become lore. And so Eris, who was once a player character, now that she is an NPC with the permission of the player in question, she is now going through the circumstance of what happens if chaos... Because chaos requires order. It is the type of chaos that requires order to exist. And it's not just she becomes evil, it's because evil is not necessarily chaotic, or because evil can also be lawful. And so it is more of a case of chaos is running rampant and she literally does not know what to do because she cannot control it. She cannot control herself. She is the type of person and the type of goddess. She doesn't want to hurt anyone. But she is also a goddess of familial love. And all of a sudden, because of the events that have everything that's happened, it has cut her off from the rest of the gods. She has lost everyone she loves and cares about. And so she does not want to make, and her mortal companions that she had made friends with throughout the way have also passed on. The Starlight Apparition, I can't say I have. What's it about? Ooh, no, I haven't seen it, but it sounds like something that I would love. Spelljammer books. Yeah, I would have liked to have. I would have liked some connection to the Spelljammer books when we were recently in the Astral Sea, because I didn't really know how the Astral Sea worked up until that point. So I made some stuff up, and then we had to retcon some stuff, and it was really great. Ooh. I'm going to write that down, Drop Bear. Helps if I have a pen that works. See, I like that, Talmaru. The only thing that arises with that is the player in question, they don't want their character to return. They're happy. Because we actually had a moment, because of the nature of some of the other characters' roles. So at the moment we've got some stuff going on with Keepers, which are entities that work with Reapers in reaping souls and memories. And they actually got a moment pop up as a ghost for a single event. I'd need to sit down and talk to him and see how he'd want that to work. Because that is absolutely fantastic. And the fact that he died in the Astral Sea is even more epic. We can definitely make that work. I could definitely see it working. And it would be such a great story element. So yeah, that's such a cool thing. See, I use a lot of third-party books as well. Yeah, they had unfinished that the party wanted to fulfill, but at the end of the day, it comes down to, as well. Yeah, I need to ask the player if they want their character to BBG. See, I know that they've rolled a new character that we'll be bringing in when we come back. So it just depends. I'll run it by him, though, the player in question. Because, yeah, if he wants to come back for a one-time thing, that could also potentially work, depending on what happens. Because his whole point was he just wanted to be a hero, so... and obviously that was a great of great import to him. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I usually leave it up to, because I think the players did actually, in character, they got to speak to his soul, and they asked him, like, one of the characters was like dead on ready to sacrifice his life, sacrifice his soul for him. He says sacrifice his soul. It wasn't so much sacrificing his soul, it was sacrificing his mortality to become what he was meant to become. I love that when that happens, though, Talmaru. The accidental, like, heroic death, go for it. It's one of those wonderful moments where they're like, I would do this for my friends and family. So rewarding when they choose to do that. I've had a number of players over the years do it too. I had one character who planet was being threatened. I had to get him to visit. That's cool. Yeah, for me, I've also had players. I've had a player who has wanted to. He's wanted to play his ongoing character for quite a while, but he kept maintaining that he wanted his character to just be a dude, just a guy. Doesn't have any magical powers. He's not connected to the gods. Nothing like that. And the concept was his character, basically, over the years, because his character has been resurrected many a time over the years, his character just led an extraordinarily blessed life through the choices that he made, in the fact that he became the companion of a god, multiple gods actually. He got the opportunity to go back in time to help right the wrongs that had led to his world being the way that it was. He was able to re-find the love of his life and have a family with her. And they managed to live through I think at least 2 apocalypses because of their friendships with the gods that they knew. And then they had children, and one of their children went on to become the god of valor. And but on top of that, another of his children became the very thing that he had been fighting his whole life to destroy. But the lasting argument that they had was that she knew the stories. Like, he turned around and said, you knew the stories, you knew how bad they were to my people. You know, I made sure you knew. And she goes, I know, but it's not a title I took for myself, but also I can change the meaning of it. Like, I can use this power to save people, to help people. But because of his trauma and whatnot, he couldn't let it go. And unfortunately, he passed. Yes. Oh, of course it's a paladin. I love paladins for their dumb, stupid, save the world heroics. Personally, I'm a cleric main. I love being the party mum. The warrior. But I do also know that can become frustrating to some people as well. Do you think you're going to make something up on the fly, or you reckon you're going to try and plan it just a little bit just in case? Like, have cliff notes? X-Cat Darkness, how are you? It's great having you here. Yeah, I know that feeling, that moment when you're like, I'm sick, but I have slept too much. Yeah, I get that. I hope you feel better soon, though. Drink plenty of water, look after yourself. Oh, I love that. Make them as a guard of a certain gate, or yeah, give them some kind of like iconic celestial duty. Ooh, space stuff. What kind of space stuff? I always like to ask because space stuff could be planets, stars, things like that. It could also be spaceships. So I am always intrigued. Ooh, I like it. I also like your suggestion, Talmari. Gotta love some good cosmic horror. Who doesn't love a little It Came From Beyond the Stars? I love some of the abstract stuff though as well. Cosmic horror. Yes. No, I did not catch that, and that is mildly terrifying to hear. Was it was NASA talking about it, something being a cause for concern, or just something that exists? Project Playtime. I will consider it. Multiplayer horror. Yeah, that's an option. A dark scar appears on the face. I agree with you, Talmaru. It is a brilliant concept for a hook. I'm actually using for Ignition Point. So I did briefly state earlier that I use a lot of third-party Kickstarters and stuff that I've backed. And I did back one that I have actually been using quite a lot for my bad guys, just because I love the stat blocks and stuff that they've done, which is very Eldritch God horror kind of thing. just seeing if I can find it because I've got multitude of books here. The Epic Legacy Tome of Titans Volume 1. Volume 2 is on its way out, I believe. It's been a long time coming, but do love it. We're actually using... I'm using the Sunflower. It is an alien entity that they created, basically, and I'm using that as the basis of the bad guy in Ignition Point, which they have not yet encountered, just because we have been focusing on just letting them explore the world, getting to know their levels, getting them up to a level in which they're going to be able to deal with some stuff and whatnot. So, but when we come back next year, so right before we went on break, they did indeed hit level 6. So we're going to do a couple more levels of them getting to do fulfilling character story stuff and whatnot. And from there, then we will start actually exploring the main plot and actual stuff starting to happen. Because of Sunbeam. Yes, I love it. Yeah, love the Far Realms. As we discussed when Steve was here, Budge is powered by the soul of a juvenile elder god. Which is always mildly terrifying, but he also has a cannon for an arm, so which is one of the things that happened to him, which has led to questions about whether he is the sole reason. Did not know that. Yeah, I do milestone leveling just because anyone who knows anything about my DMing style, I am terrible at math. And trying to keep on track with what's going on with the XP, especially because I do run a lot of roleplay heavy campaigns, they don't necessarily always get the level of combat that they would like. I say level that they would like. Obviously, if they want to start fights and get into that stuff, they can. It's more a case of that there's not always combat there for the XP as blood magic. Exactly. Yeah. I have over the last few years started taking to sitting down and writing an outline for where I want the story to go. And then when I attribute my milestones, I put it on events, but it's not dependent on the outcome of that event. Basically, a lot of the time, it's just like a lot of the time, it's more like, please just go to this place. That's all I need you to do. Just go look at the place and you get to level up. Just experience it. You don't have to fight anything. You don't have to... Because, yeah, I have had some players in the past as well who have straight up seen where the story is going and gone, yeah, we're going to ignore that. And I'm like, okay, well, you do you, boo-boo. You can ignore it if you want. I will figure out what I'm going to do with that. But, if that's what you want to do, so be it. But don't get upset with me when I'm like, well, you've known where the story is leading you, but you've actively decided to, not follow the adventure and, fight it every step of the way. You can ignore it, but the BBEG is still going to exactly tell Murray. They're still going to advance their plans. The bad guys are still going to bad guy regardless of or not of whether you actually decide whether you're going to save the world or not. What you're actually deciding is whether you want to have a part in it. But I also, my question with players like that though then is, why are you here? Like, my job as the DM is not to give you a reason to want to play out the story. That's literally, like, you are the one who needs to find a reason why you are here. You need to find a reason why your character would want to save the world. You are the one who needs to find the reason of why your character would stay with the other characters. Like, that's not my job to figure out a reason why you guys are together, because at the end of the day, D&D is a collaborative game. And legitimately, one of the major things that the players need to do is, like, and you can turn around as a character, this is just my opinion, you can turn around as a character and say, my character wouldn't travel with your character after what's happened. And that's fine. And you can have that adversity between your characters. Yeah, exactly. You can have that adversity between your characters and find a way for your but it's up to you to find a way for why your characters are still adventuring together. Like, and if they can't, then we need to figure something out, because this isn't going to work then with you playing a lone wolf character. Like, play the lone wolf, but sure. But play the lone wolf that wants to open up eventually, wants to find that closeness. And exactly. It comes back to exactly what I said before, which is not every table is for every player. But if the DM's having to sit there and go, well, why are you, like, if the DM's literally sitting there pulling out their hair going, why are you even here then? If you, like, for example, and this is just my perspective, obviously, because I understand that not every DM runs these kind of games. But, you know, now as part of my session 0, I'm very explicit saying I run heroic style campaigns. You have to. Yeah, the wall doesn't line up. Damn it. You have to. Why are you even here? If I run heroic adventures, if you do not want to be a hero, this isn't going to work. You have to want to save the world in my campaigns. And, you know, I don't, the only one I kind of turn around and say is you can't really play a chaotic evil character, but I don't mind if you have a slightly more evil alignment or whatever. I don't heavily lean into the alignment systems. Yeah. Willingly tie yourself into the story, into the why your character would do things, why your character would stay with the rest of the party, you know, because otherwise no one at that table is going to have a good time. You can't expect everybody else to try to cater. You can't expect everybody else to find the reasons for you and tell you, okay, well, this is what we're doing, so you just need to go along. But, I mean, I say that, but it always comes with the caveat. If that's fine, if that's what you want to do, fine. And everybody's happy with that, also fine. But, yeah, at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that D&D is a group game. It is a collaborative effort. And everybody that's playing apparently wants to be there. So if that's the case, find a reason to make it work, you know? Because expecting other people to fix that for you and figure that out for you ends up, this is just my personal experience. Obviously, I'm aware that this is not necessarily the experience of everybody. But if you come into a game and expect everybody to do the heavy lifting, all that it's going to do is breed discontent and annoyance from the other players that they've had to do all your heavy lifting. Or, like, I don't understand player characters, like players, who literally sit there. The other characters are sitting there going, we're trying to make friends with you. And they go, well, my character wouldn't do that. Then why is your fucking character here? Pardon my swearing, by the way. Like, I do not understand. Yeah, I actively do not understand characters who straight up argue why they're there in the first place. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's exactly it. Like, I can say I won't always have a story. When I have a game that I'm going to play, I don't always have a story straight off the bat of what I'm trying to achieve in game. Purely based on the fact that because I want to see what the players come up with first, and then I will work around them. I do have a questionnaire. Yeah, fast and cheap. Good, fast, cheap. Yeah. And this is the other thing. For all the work that I do, I am aware that, yes, I do stream my games. I didn't always. The main reason I stream my games now is just because I believe in my players, and if I just want to share it with other people. And I believe in the stories that we're telling, and it's just fun to be part of something. Like when people join our chat when we're playing and say hi, I will say hi to you in chat. Like, because at the end of the day, and this is one thing my players are aware of as well, because it's just like we're playing in someone's room, and the vibe we wanted to go for was we are playing in someone's kitchen and somebody's sibling walks through and says hi to the table or whatever. That's the vibe we're going for. Everybody is welcome to our chats. Everybody is welcome to come, listen, watch. We will acknowledge you. We will say hi. You can ask questions. We will try and answer them. Sometimes it'll be after we've finished whatever scene we're doing or whatever. But yeah, our biggest point is we want people to feel like they can have a say and a part in the experience. It's why some of the channel rewards are things like viewers can give the players inspiration. Oh, if any of my players or even I came to my players and said, hey, look, I can't keep streaming this, it's stressing me out, that would be it. It's part of the reason why, for example, Equinox, we use talk sprites. We don't use cams for that. Well, we do use cams, but we don't use them on the stream because some of our players aren't comfortable with using their cams and their face being on stream, which is why we turned around and said, fine, that's absolutely fine. We are, well, there's that too. But yeah, that's why we use talk sprites for Equinox. Because if even one person doesn't want to be on camera, fine, we'll accommodate. Whereas everybody in Ignition Point, they were happy being on camera, it's fine. But if anybody at any point turned around and said, can we not use cameras on Ignition Point? The answer to that is fine, we'll make talk sprites, all good. Because at the end of the day, it's a game. It's not supposed to, like, yes, it's supposed to there are times where it will be stressful, but it should be fun stress, not. Hi PCM, how are you? I love your little emote. That is so cute. I love his little leaf hat. That's adorable. Sorry, I got distracted. He's so cute. Sorry. But yeah. Estress, not distress. Exactly. Yeah. Because something you do for fun should not be causing anxiety in your life. Again, it is something that has taken me a long time to teach myself and learn that. So I hate conflict, obviously. Like most people, I'm conflict avoidant. But I have realized, as harrowing as potentially starting conflict it is always going to be more beneficial to just address it. And so, yeah, I'm continuously endeavoring to grow as a DM and as a player and just even as a person, because obviously these are important life skills too. of just, if I have a problem with something one of my players has done, or just general vibes about how I'm feeling, I'm just going to talk to my players about it, because 9 times out of 10 it can be solved with just good communication. Doing good. Doing character stuff. Interesting. What kind of character stuff, if you don't mind me asking? Because I'm always interested in hearing about other people's characters. Hero Forge. Yes! I have one player in particular who absolutely adores Hero Forge. I think he has a Hero Forge character for every single character he's created, which he is one of those people. This wretched people. But he's so cute. Sorry, I presumed. They're so cute though. I do have to ask. It looks like an angel. Yeah, and I think, Tal, that is one of the things that I've really started to realize as well. The players who generally end up causing the biggest amount of problems do not trust me to not screw them over, even in game. She's a horrible monster. No, I'm sorry, Talmaro. That's my fault. No, it's just the settings on my chat mod. It's 9 times out of 10 I will actually... 9 times out of 10 I okay it anyway. She's a horrible monster. Does not look like butter would melt in their mouth. No. Yeah, I've ended up having to just put some weird... I've tried to be really good about not being too blocky. She's a cunning linguist. Oh, come on, chat. That was stupid. You'd be surprised. I mean, if you've seen any of my games, you'll probably understand why. Especially the Ignition Point crew. We're all Aussie. Some are more Aussie than others, obviously. So if you ever do catch our games, be aware that there will be a level of swearing, especially Australian swearing, if you're not familiar or particularly comfortable with the C word. It does come up not quite a bit, but it does come up occasionally. So I do give that warning. An Aasimar Blood Hunter. Yes, I love a good Aasimar Blood Hunter. I know Blood Hunters cop a lot of flack because it does typically draw a specific kind of personality that it's usually played with. But I think we were kind of just discussing this. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're playing a little bit of a loner. It's just as long as you're giving a reason for your character to interact with the party. Yeah, tell me about her, PCM. I love hearing about other people's characters. I love hearing other people's stories. So, always important. Yeah, I love hearing about other people's stories. It's part of the reason that I became an audiobook narrator. Because obviously the next best thing about hearing about other people's stories is getting to bring other people's stories to life so that other people can enjoy and appreciate them. I suppose it's one of the things that drew me to D&D. Aasimar Blood Hunter, yep. Tee-hee-hee. I also know that a lot of people do play the Blood Hunters, like, play around with their lore as well, so... Powdered... It's more like a paste, I suppose. Yeah, Vegemite is straight up a yeast extract for those who don't know, Vegemite is the yeast extract that is left over from the beer making process. And yeah, we turn it into Vegemite. No, I could see her little halo. That's why I thought she was adorable. It is really nutritious. I do. Well, it's great for B12. Tamamaru. Yeah, exactly. It's one of the reasons why Vegemite, being a Vegemite kid, a happy little Vegemiter. I mean, if you haven't seen the Vegemite ads, that won't make any sense to you. But the actual catchphrase and the catch song that goes with Vegemite is, "We're happy little Vegemiters, bright as bright can be." So, yeah. I think she is absolutely adorable, PCM. I can see her little red eyes, her little halo, which has slipped. I wonder why. It's still a puree a bit. Close enough. I will agree with that. I just realised this one needs to get just saturation. Okay. That was a little bit too bright. 7 eyes. Ooh. Love a lot of eyes. Wings behind her ears. You know the deal. Cries blood. Exactly. I feel like the crying blood is the... Crying blood from 7 eyes, though. God, that would be so frustrating. Ooh, go for it. It gets messy, yeah. Why are you covered in blood? I'm sorry. It's just been a really hard day. Just wants all the cuddles, but looks terrifying as hell. Yeah. See, I 100% agree with you, X-Cat, because, I mean, have you ever Googled, realistic pictures of what angels, biblical angels look like? Like, that is terrifying. That is nightmare fuel. All the eyes, all the rings, all the wings, all the bits and pieces. Yeah, no. It is making me wonder if my heart's breaking for her already, because kids can be so mean. Yes, I do. 100%. I do try to keep a little bit of distance between the inspiration and my cultures in my world. I do try to keep a little bit of distance, just because the last thing I would want anyone to think is that I'm appropriating, not appreciating the cultures that I'm taking inspiration from. But obviously, at the risk of sounding like a lazy creator, it is the easiest and quickest way for me to describe what certain cultures are like in my world. So, for example, the Fire Realm is based heavily on having Scottish clans, but the actual culture and the actual architecture and things like that is very similar to Arabic, Egyptian, and some of those kind of cultures. There's also a bit of Moroccan culture in there as well. Yeah. I take inspiration, but I do endeavour to do a lot of research into why certain things are followed and things like this. I don't just go, oh, I like the look of that and I want to put it in my world for no reason. But I think it's really important to also highlight different cultures as well, if only as a point of going, hey, this is a culture that really, really inspired me, just because it seems so beautiful, it seems so wonderful. And I'm obviously not someone of a lot of the cultures that I represent, but if I can inspire, so I have 2 children, and through my world and my research of different cultures to put into my world, hello Shalakard, to put cultures in my world and things like that, it has actually led my children to being interested in real world different religions, real world different cultures, and do their own research. And we're talking about a variety of different things, Shalakard. We're talking about inspiration for map building cultures and stuff in D&D games. We're talking about PCM's wonderful Aasimar Bloodhunter character. Quite the controversial topic in the village. Ooh. Yeah. And, I mean, if it has led to my children having a desire to discover other culture, that is really important to me. Particularly though, a lot of my mythology is taken from different mythologies all over the world too. There are some mythologies, obviously I simply refuse to interact with or put in, or mythological creatures I refuse to put in for cultural reasons, like obviously certain Native American ones that I've been told. Oh no, Shalakard, I'm so sorry. Yeah, there are obviously some like mythical creatures I don't put in for very obvious reasons, and those cultures have obviously expressly said, please don't use these as your mythologies or things like that, and I think that's fair. Even if I didn't think it was fair, it's not my place to say that. But yeah, so I think that's the difference between appropriation and appreciation though, but that's just my perspective. Obviously people don't have to agree with me on that, but that's just my perspective. Aww, I feel sorry for her. That's not fair. And Shalakard, that absolutely sucks. I hate that when you put all this work into creating this character and then for whatever reason it just doesn't, you just don't get to play them. That's not fair. Yeah, I understand you and hear you on that one, Talmaro. I don't think I've played in a serious, like, RP campaign for a while now. I don't know how I feel about that, X-Cat. I genuinely don't know how I feel about that. Obviously, this is where I have to get a little bit careful around what I say. Just because I am aware that as an Australian, for example, it was a comment on all humanity, yeah. I will say, as an Australian, I am, and I mean, it's not hard to find pictures of me on the internet now because obviously I am an audiobook narrator. I narrate under my actual name, which is Tegan Burke. So you can see pictures of me. I am obviously white, so I get a. I obviously feel like there are some places where I just prefer not to have an opinion on that, but that's the point. It's my kind of perspective is be a decent person. That's regardless of, and some people may say that this is incredible privilege with which I say this. I think it's more important just to be a decent human being, regardless of where you come from, your experiences, because our experiences are what shape us. Just be decent. Yeah, be a decent human being. Henpecked. Oh. Oh, see, that's so cool though, Shalakard. I hope you've at least like saved the characters so that you can use them like in another opportunity. Can't get worse. Oh, see, I like that. That's cool, Talmaru. I'm sorry, I still can't get over your adorable little emotes, PCM. Yeah, I completely understand, Shalakard. I'm so sorry you didn't get to play them. But that is the absolute wonder of this fantasy game that we play. It will not be the last you see him. He will be back, and with a vengeance, trying to stay away from Tiamat as much as possible. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Oh. And there's gonna be some heavy stuff with a backstory like the one you've written, PCM. Like, oof. I really wonder how your character's going to go and, yeah, how they're going to go and what they're going to do. And obviously, hopefully, the friendships that they've made within the group will help that. Uh, XCat, that definitely helps. I do, yeah, I can see the humour in that then. Obviously, context certainly helps the situation. Now, I have two minds about this, Talmari. You can have a really, really bad guy. I personally believe not every bad guy needs to be redeemable. I will state that you need to have reasons for them to be the way that they are. That doesn't have to mean that they're redeemable. They can be evil for the sake of just being an absolutely vile person. However, that being said, you know, because, for example, who doesn't love a villain that they can just hate and want to destroy? Yeah. And you know what? If that is his whole thing and he doesn't hold any other life in regard, yeah, he's going to stop at nothing. He is going to be absolutely irredeemable. And this is something I've had a bit of I've also had questions about as well. And some of it is, you know, realizing as well the stories that I want to tell. Sometimes your bad guys are just going to be bad, vile people. And players going, you know, they seem really, really bad. That's the point. They're a villain. Oh, but, you know, I don't know where the turn came that every villain has to be a sympathetic villain. Yeah, exactly. Not every villain has to be savable. Not every villain has to be... Yeah, not every villain has to be savable. Not every villain has to be redeemable. Like, you don't have to understand their motivations. You can sit there as one of the heroes and go, I just don't understand why they're doing this. Okay, you don't understand why they're doing it, but what they're doing is evil. Okay, so they're evil. And I can understand with wanting characters to be... I can understand with people going, but I want to understand the bad guy. But I had a really interesting conversation with another DM friend I have. And they said, generally, I don't run evil campaigns. I don't let players play evil characters. And I went, that's weird. Why? And he goes, because at the end of the day, I won't run an evil campaign because inevitably the players will always try to redeem themselves, because out of character, they do not want to be seen as a terrible person. Yeah, see, Talmari, that's absolutely fine. That's you, as the DM, out of character, asking the player, is it okay if a bandit calls you this? You know, and she's like, yeah, cool. No, fine. That's fine. That's you asking a real world player a situation. It's completely different if, you know, like that's you asking for player comfort. That's not a character thing. Yeah, and I think XCat, you're absolutely correct. But the problem with it is, and we're starting to see it happen now as well, that people are being more understanding and acknowledging the villain's needs more. And in doing so, they're making sympathetic villains, but in turn, it's making the heroes look absolutely terrible. Because in making a villain sympathetic, all of a sudden, it changes the perception that, hang on a second, maybe, just maybe, the heroes are wrong. Oh, I love Farscape. Absolute chef kiss. Love it. Yeah, definitely seen it. Yeah, the biggest problem is in having complex villains, all you're doing is humanizing them more, which means that all of a sudden people are empathizing with the villain, and all of a sudden it's making your heroes actually seem like terrible people. Exactly. And this is why I did say this a bit earlier. I don't heavily lean into the alignment system. Yeah, moral quandaries, exactly. I do sometimes just like that a villain cannot be saved. There is absolutely nothing you can do. Because this is the thing, like, if you're going to... and this also comes down to as well is... I do not let... I very much dissociate fantasy villains from real world villainy or real world evil, because if you start asking those questions about in-game villains and what you're willing to allow, that's when we start to see a bit of a situation as well that all of a sudden you're not allowed to do anything in a game anymore. This is personally something I'm starting to see, that if you start equating real world situations and real world acts with fantasy, all of a sudden it starts to create associations that aren't necessarily there. That's not to say that you can't think about those things. Sure, definitely do. Think about the real world. Think about how things affect you. Think about how things make you feel and how they affect other people. Definitely, 100%. Real world, go for it. But turning around and saying, oh, well, this situation is obviously a reflection of this particular situation. No. Not everything has to be a political statement. Sometimes a game is just a game. And exactly. Dramatic caricature of humanity. No one who is putting a slavery story into their games, 98% of them, I can't say for everyone, but 98% of people that do that don't think slavery is good and should be used. That's the point. That's the point of there being evil in games. It gives the heroes something to fight back against. I'm a big believer that you need to have adversity. Well, at least in my games, I need to have that adversity because I run fantasy hero adventure games. So there is going to be adversity. Even though I do also tell my players, though, there are some topics that I 100% will not touch. I will not allow in their backstories. I just do not touch it. I don't think it should be used as a form of entertainment. And almost all of those are, for example, I do not allow any characters to have... I don't allow any characters to have abuse backstories, for example. Insofar as physical, other assaulting kind of backstories, I am not comfortable covering them. I am not a qualified therapist to be able to deal with them. And genuinely, my experience with them is they just make everybody at the table uncomfortable. That's not to say that other tables may not allow it. I don't. Just because I don't know how to roll with that, and I don't want everybody at the table uncomfortable. That's exactly it, Talmari. That is exactly it. Well, that's exactly it. I've said that too. I will read the thing in a second, Shellicard. Talmari, that is exactly it. I've had to say to my players before, my job as the DM is literally to be the bad guy. That being said, I do not want you to fail. Because as the DM, if you guys fail, that's the end of the campaign. I actively want you to win, but it is my job to put those obstacles in your way. It is my job to stop you. Oh, no, that's absolutely fine. PCM, what I say for my players, it's more the fact of what you guys do, what you do with your characters, what your DMs allow, absolutely fine. That is all up to you. Like, I don't mind hearing about it in other people's stories or anything like that. It's just I don't personally let my players have those kind of backstories because I don't know how to deal with them in game. I know that it makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable. Other players feel uncomfortable, just kind of talking about it and stuff. So obviously that's not something that I necessarily want to address. But I don't mind hearing other people's player stories about it and things like that. Like, that's absolutely fine. It's more just the fact that I've had a number of players in the past who have used my games to explore their own kind of therapy or use my games as therapy, and I've had to take a very strong stance as a DM to turn around and say, my games, I am not a licensed therapist. My games are not your therapy. I cannot be that for you because I am not qualified to do so. So it's just easier if I don't include it in my games, just because I've had that experience of players using it as a ground to explore things, and yeah, it just hasn't worked out well in my thing. Jade Empire, at the end there's a... Talk me out of this. I like that too, Shalakard. I very much do. Exactly, Talmari. I am on your side. The villains are not. Yep. Can understand that, PCM. Yep, can understand that, PCM. People are petty like that. Oh, don't get me wrong, Talmari. Dr. Psycho / he goes as the Mindful Gamer now, who plays in Ignition Point, is a licensed psychologist. And, you know, as he points out, like, and he is one of the most wonderful, caring people. He absolutely loves discussing theory, like the whole theory of use it for certain things, using roleplay and role-playing games to explore certain things. He goes, not in every type of therapy, but he says it can be a wonderful therapy to help people dealing with anxiety, etc., etc. Because it can help people who deal with assertiveness, even just problem-solving stuff. He cannot talk highly enough about it. And yeah, and that's the point. Like, I completely understand that this is a place of escapism for a lot of people, and I get that, and I appreciate that people feel comfortable doing it through the mask of their character. And don't get me wrong, I 100% think that D&D can be a wonderful place to discover stuff about yourself and try certain things on for yourself that you want to discover and things like this. I still think that there has to be a line. Yeah, exactly. I'm not a therapist. I can't talk you through your life trauma. And that being said, like, if you want to explore things for yourself and whatnot as well, like, D&D is great for that. Exactly. 100% XCat. And that's not to say that obviously, you know, the people you meet through D&D don't care about you. But I think there has also been this rise as well that I think a lot of people sometimes forget, at least my experience with D&D, was I discovered D&D through Roll20. So, and a lot of the people I play with now are long-term friends that I've met through the hobby, of which I will always be grateful. But the biggest issue is a lot of the people you're playing with is strangers. I do know that that is something that Wizards of the Coast has been starting to do a little bit more. I personally, at the moment, have taken a break from supporting Wizards of the Coast content, just on the basis, especially after the AI artwork situation. I obviously have very strong opinions on AI generated work. I do understand the argument that AI is a tool. I completely understand that. But from my perspective, I'm going to stand in solidarity against artists who are being pushed back against because of AI, especially because as an audiobook narrator, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened recently for us as well, where virtual voices is slowly pushing us out. This is just a little bit of a deviation on this situation. So I, as an Australian, don't have access to ACX, which is the platform that connects authors to audiobook narrators for Audible. I don't have access to it just because of various things. The issue is, so Spotify was partnered with Findaway that did allow people in Australia and whatnot who wanted to be a narrator and whatnot get in contacts with authors. Well, they completely shut down their developmental thing. So I've obviously had to deal with that off of the back of it. But Spotify and Findaway has just announced that they will allow AI voices. And obviously Audible has been allowing it for a little while now as well. So, yeah, exactly, XCat. That's the biggest problem. It is a tool, and like most tools, it will be misused. And I do understand that the artist that they did hire for, I think it was the Giant book that it was. A lot of people are unhappy because there's no way that the Wizards of the Coast didn't know, because they had the artist in question had it on their profile that they did use AI support at least. But yeah, it's not. It's also Magic the Gathering issues on their cards and stuff like that. I'm less into the Magic side of things, but as someone who has friends who are professional artists, until they have a better way to utilize this tool that's not trained on stolen artwork, stolen voices, I can't get behind it. Yeah, if you've got all your own stuff, go for it. 100%. Anything to make your life easier, as long as it's all your work, go for it. Because nobody's getting hurt out of this situation. And yeah, so that's my point. I agree with you, XCat. And that's the thing. Findaway was caught out at the start of February by stealing narrators' voices, and then they completely nuked the channel. Oh, see, that's nice, PCM. Yeah. And that's exactly it. Like, I heard someone say you can't put the AI genie back in the bottle, and that is the case. Like, it is here, it is something that is just going to have to be adapted to. But it's the fact that a lot of these companies are now using it to push real people out. And the reality is that isn't something I can support, just because, yeah, I have friends who are artists, friends who are narrators, and these are actively, like myself as well, these are our livelihoods that are getting threatened here. It's not the boring work that nobody wants to do. it's, you know, real jobs and stuff like this. But at the end of the day, that's what businesses are going to do. Businesses are here to make money. So, you know, we just have to kind of take it as it comes, a day at a time, because it's moving fast. See, I say that's nice, but it's such a backhanded compliment, PCM. He knew what he was doing when he made it for her. And I feel sorry for your poor sweet angel. Because all she wants to do is be loved and accepted. Well, that's exactly it. And hey, look, we have it in D&D too. I mean, look at the look at the optimizers in D&D. Some of them are really good about it and will be really polite about it and go, hey, I like the rules. I just like having a character that can be good at what they do. I don't have a problem with that, right? My problem is when they go out of their way to tweak a character to intentionally beat the game to win at D&D. And I'm like, you know, then they kind of get they get overjoyed when they feel like they've beaten you as the DM because they out-optimized you. But they are also the first ones who absolutely 100% crack the shits when things didn't go the way they anticipated because they didn't know the whole story. Exactly. The reason is important because, you know, I don't see myself as an optimizer, but it takes a rare individual to want to play a deliberately crap character. Everybody wants to feel good about the character that they're playing. And if you want to play a character who, you know, everyone likes playing the joke character and building the joke character. Yeah, as the DM, you can always win. I agree with you, Talamaru. Again, this is just my trauma coming through with this. I've had a number of players yell at me because the DM always wins. Oh, well, you're always right, aren't you? I'm the DM, man. Like, I'm running the game. At best, exactly, X-Cat. Yeah, I've legitimately had players mad at me because things didn't go their way. Like, I can understand, and it has taken me a little bit to also, just through the growth as a DM, I can now turn around and say, well, that was absolutely bullshit. Like, for me, it sucked. Yeah, it's a powder keg, yeah. And from my experience, though, with having a specific type of optimizer in my game, that is 100% what it leads to. Because they cannot believe that you beat them. And that's my experience. So, you know, when you get yelled at for a few a chunk of real world time for decisions you made about a game. This is why I now have a very strong stance on, dude, this is a game. I do not need to be abused for something that I have taken time out of my life to design, build, and run for free for you. Like, I don't need to take this anymore. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't need to take this. It comes back to the classic saying, no D&D is better than bad D&D. Yeah. Yeah, usually a younger sibling will go with what the older says, which is unfair and unfortunate. Pack mentality kind of sucks with that, for that. No one should be made to feel like the black sheep, in my opinion. Especially when they're kids and they have legitimately done nothing wrong. Oh, see, that's nice. See, it's nice that they have siblings who actually like them. Yeah, see, Talmari, it's taken me quite a while to find players who are like that. Like, I think that was the hardest thing when we first started Ignition Point was the Ignition Point crew. So we have a number of brand new players in Ignition Point who had never played D&D before. And so we got, I don't know how many sessions in before one of the players' characters actually died through the result of their own choice, you know, and just bad choices. And I actually felt so anxious about it because I'm like, great, he's now going to yell at me. He's going to get upset with me. He's going to lose his absolute mind because I've done this to his character and his character's died. And it was so cathartic to have this player turn around and go, well, that sucked. Now what happens? And then I got to explain, like, hey, it depends what you want to do. Like, obviously, there is a level where the other players are going to sit here and they may choose to resurrect you. I actually don't mind this music. The music for the stream has been NCS Arcade, which is a 24-hour gaming stream by No Copyright Sounds. Absolutely fabulous music creators. I do point out for anyone who wants to use it on their own streams, there are sometimes songs that do come up that there might be similarities. But as long as you've given proper attribution, you can usually dispute it and they will free it immediately. Otherwise, there are ways to just mute it from your stream and things like that. Yeah, exactly. And that's how it should be, Talmari. Aw, see, that's nice, PCM. Getting to... looking after her. Aw. There's a part of me as a DM who wants to say, I'm really sad because part of me wonders if your DM is going to target them because they care about her. Sure, Talmari. Go for it. I will have to check that out because I would love some good D&D music. Yeah, I will ask them because at the moment in Equinox I have been using, with their permission from Metis Media, the Historica Arcanum soundtracks. I am aware of Epidemic Sounds. I've looked into them. I haven't followed up on it yet. I have been using Lo-Fi Girls / Lo-Fi Boys synthetic music for Equinox. I have made a playlist judging and checking and asking for their permission on certain things. There are a couple of songs that do flag, and I've taken them out of the playlist. But I usually do attribute all of those songs specifically as well. I love Scott Buckley's work. And he has rules on his attribution as well. Attribution. I will get that word right one day. So yeah, there are a couple of places I've looked into using, and places I get my music from. I also like Chill Hop as well. If you want a more lo-fi. Game Chops is also good for lo-fi arcadey kind of music too. Ooh, learning to be a chef. Can confirm. Great idea for a character. You'll always have friends as a player character if you are able to cook for people. Oh no! X-Cat, that's sad! Yeah, that's kind of something that we did for the character of Kevin in Ignition Point. He became the avatar to a god of decay. How familiar with you are the Asimar subraces? Passing. I do use a number of homebrew ones myself, but I do know passably. Oh, that's so cool, Talmaru. Oh, I love the sound of that. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I do know those ones PCM. Oh, yeah, I use, Telmaru, I actually use Audacity to record all my audiobooks. There are so many options out there though, XCat. It depends on how much you want to flavor text, how much homebrew is allowed, obviously, depending on what you want to do. It could work though. Oh no! Yeah, I don't blame you for grieving a character. Definitely. Grieving a character is hard. If they're not used for harm, yes, I can kind of agree. I would say it's not necessarily annoying. It could be problematic if you don't have control of the power. I don't know if you'll be able to share the link, unfortunately, Talmaru. I think I've got hyperlinks turned off. I agree. Would suck for Scourges, especially since isn't their ability they have to hurt themselves for the ability to work? Yeah, I can understand that. It depends on how much you're willing to flavor text as well, if you can earn those sorcerer levels back and stuff. There's also the fact that, yeah, your character's resurrected, they make a deal, but maybe they come back changed, or maybe the deal is a similar kind of a thing. You can have this life to complete your task or whatever, and then your soul belongs to me kind of thing to do as need be kind of thing. You make that deal. Like, it is always possibility. Yeah, always a possibility that could come to pass. Ooh. Looking at the music. What's it doing? Get the music. Is this their gaming one? No, we want their gaming music. There's not too much different, but it's saying it's live, but it is not live. We love silence. I have to change it over. I know you can see me flipping through into the corner. Ah, Scourge asthma. Makes sense. Yeah. I do not blame you, X-Cat. Oh, you know what? If you have... If you have seen... I will turn around and say this. If you have seen Ignition Point, you'll see what happened. But poor Kevin, yeah. "35 rust monsters. What in the actual all things that are holy? It depends what level they were, though. I haven't thrown dust monsters against the party yet, just because a clockwork automaton, that would be so mean. Oh. They came in waves. Definitely a good way. I like doing waves because it allows you to assess how much a party can take. Yeah. That's what I can't wait. I'm kind of holding off on doing it just because they haven't really been in a situation where they could experience it yet, but I'm going to, and it's going to be so much fun. Oh no! Her siblings that actually like her. No, that's terrible. Please do tell Mari. We love it. Evil One does it too. if you've seen any of the games, you would know that Evil One is also a longtime DM friend of mine, but also a player in some of my games. But he is also responsible for a large number of world lore and gods and whatnot. Almost all of my players that are playing currently in some way or form have contributed to the world lore through the actions of previous characters. Oof, deep fry. That's a rough way to describe it. How much wall have I got? I think I'm going to finish off these walls, and then that will be me for this evening, I think. Chances are I will probably be back doing this again tomorrow, just for a few hours, before I go to do some work, because I am currently working on a book called Walking in Her Shadow. It is book 3 in the Perception series by David Parker Ross. So if you like kind of sci-fi fantasy in alternate kind of realities, check it out. All of the books are written from different character perspectives. The whole point of it is perceptions. It's what you believe. I narrate several characters in the series. Most of them are Australian. I narrate book 2, That Girl from Wagga, from the viewpoint of Stacey Grant. I also narrate The Awakening of Hannah Grant, where I narrate as Hannah Grant, who is Stacey's half-sister. And there are a number of books in the works as well. This particular book is Walking in Her Shadow, is from the viewpoint of the character Emma Dodgson. She is a US Marine. Most of it takes place in space. So yeah. Ooh, that's kind of terrifying. Talmari. I learned the hard way that a Banshee and Will of the Wisps, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I created a kill box without realizing. However, because at that point I was still not 100% on how well I was doing at creating combat, and other experienced DMs who have been running the game for years also did not catch it. So I was mildly terrified for a little bit there. Okay, so we have the little final parts here. Just put in these last little bastions. Which, with that now done, I can hopefully down. Delete that. So there we go. All the walls of the city are done. So with that, I want to thank all of you for stopping by and having a chat. Like I said, I will probably be back tomorrow night. We'll see what time, but it is likely to be around 8:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. But we will see. But either way, I'll be around for a couple of hours doing some map building. Thank you to everybody, Talmaro, PCM, Shalakard, XCat, for staying and chatting with me. It's been wonderful to have you here. I will talk to you all when I see you next. I want you to drink plenty of water, get plenty of rest, look after yourself, and have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night wherever you are in the world. Look after yourself, look after and be kind to others, and I'll talk to you all later. Love you. Bye.